Okay, Fiorella, welcome to the Visionary Life podcast. I'm so excited to chat with you today. We were actually connected, I believe, through Staples. They had a co-working space that launched about a year ago, and I met you through one of the events that they had where they connected all of the facilitators and people who had given presentations. And we've been trying to make this podcast happen for quite some time. We thought it was going to be in person, but today it is June 18th, 2020, as we record this, and we're doing it over Zoom, but I think this is just as good. It's so nice to finally get you on the show. So thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I want to ask you some quick fire questions just so the listeners can get to know you, and then we'll learn all about Storia. So first things first, where did you grow up?
So I was born in Rome.
Wow.
Came over to Toronto with my family. It was supposed to be a stopover. We were supposed to end up in the States, but that never happened. So I've been in Toronto since the age of 9.
Do you ever go back to Rome?
We went back once. So I went back when I was in my teens. Um, I've been meaning to go back but just life gets in the way and we haven't been back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool. What is the very first thing that you do in the morning?
Hmm. So I belong to a group and we have what's called the 6 a.m. club. So we wake up, I get up every morning at 6. We log into Zoom, no video, and we just basically start the day with some mindset work.
Oh
And
my
that's
gosh, I
it.
love that. So who are these people? Like, where did you
It's a
find others?
It's a group called Thinking into Results. There's many coaches that run it. Our coach is awesome, Hina, and she just set this up. It's been now 14 weeks. So when COVID all came out and we were all home, we have weekly calls with her, like as a group. She said, you know what? I wake up every morning and do some study. Why don't whoever wants to join me can join me? No video, just log into Zoom. And she expected a few people. The very first day she did it, she had 30 people. And most of us haven't missed a day since then.
Oh, that's so cool. So much power in the
Oh,
accountability and the community with
and
others.
starting your day, just there's always that. I find no matter, again, it's been 14 weeks. I've missed the odd one, I have to be honest, in the morning, but there's always that aha moment, I find. And you just kind of start your day energized, even throughout all this. So just you start on a positive note.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And I'd love to know, what would you say is your greatest accomplishment in life thus far?
Other than my 3 beautiful kids,
That's pretty good.
yeah, that to me is up there.
Yeah.
You know what? Yeah, I think that, and I think, um, you know, my family, like just keeping, like my husband and I have been working together since 1999. And we make it work and we still have a great relationship and we're able to maintain both sides and maintain a balance most of the time. So I think that would have to be my biggest accomplishment.
That's so cool. And I love to hear that you have found balance in working with your husband, because I'm sure it's not always
No,
easy to
no.
separate the life you have outside of your business and then also that working
Yes.
partnership. But just to know that it is possible
Yeah.
is really cool.
Yeah.
Do you have any rituals of like how you drop work at the end of the day and then go into
Yeah.
being husband and wife?
So that's tough at times. And I have to say, even after all these years, especially because now in the last um, 5 years, 4 or 5 years, we've worked from home.
Yeah.
So when we had a studio and when we were out and we kind of, and I'll explain later, we do different sides of the business, it was easier. Studio closed, went home. Since we've been both working at home, it is a little bit challenging. And sometimes we do have to remind ourselves that, hey, okay, it's time to close these computers. The good thing is that the kids, I have kids still living at home. They're older, but they're still living at home. So it's kind of a reminder. So we always make a point of having dinner together when they're home. So it's kind of it's not a ritual, but you kind of fall into that pattern for your kids. And then you're also reminded like, okay, you know what, this is it now. So let's
Yeah.
just close computers, go on the deck, have a glass of wine, whatever the case may be, go for a walk and just chat. And it is a constant reminder. It is constantly, we constantly work at it.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's, the ever evolving journey, right? You never
Absolutely.
arrive at the perfect business, the perfect
Mm,
relationship, but you
no.
can continue to improve it.
Right, right.
So let's take it back to life before launching Storia. So take us back to, what was your very first job?
Okay. So, although I run a video production company now with my husband, my background is actually business. So I have a business degree. I came out of school, Ryerson, and I was hired by a large mining company, the head office of a mining company downtown in the Royal Bank Plaza. Worked there for a little bit, and then I was made executive assistant to the vice chairman. And he was in his latter years, so I worked for him for about, I think, 3 or 4 years. He retired, and I transitioned into managing the payroll and benefits department. So that was and I was there for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then when did this whole journey into entrepreneurship begin? Maybe take
Hmm.
us back to that moment in your life.
Yeah, so the way that it pretty much happened was, so my husband is the creative component of our business. Not that I'm not creative, but he's the guide, basically
Yep.
the guy, the filming, the editing, all that kind of stuff. That's his knowledge. So he graduated from film school at Ryerson Film and Photography, and he worked for film production companies back in the day. It wasn't video, it was film, it was big budget productions. I worked in corporate, and we saw things happening specifically in the early 90s, like recession, and basically our future and our livelihood, we saw it in the hands of other people. My company started to shrink. I was part of massive layoffs. We had 2 full floors in, a prime building downtown, and it went down to half a floor. And I thought, you know what, I'm probably going to be next. My husband's business, he was the film commercials director. That business was shrinking. People weren't spending the big budgets anymore. We were in a recession. So it was almost like, I think the thing that really triggered it for us was, we need to take our future in our own hands. And we saw that in starting our own business. We've always been pretty positive people, and we believe that, if you set your mind to something, you work at it, you can achieve it. And so we kind of pretty much fell into photography because film in the day wasn't video. There was no such thing. Video wasn't the buzzword. It was film, was left to the big companies, the big budget. So although when Frank kind of left the company, or actually the company went under, he worked for a few companies and 2 of them went under, he was forced to kind of go out on his own, and he did a little bit of film and he did photography. Photography really took over, and we kept hearing, we can't get this kind of stuff anywhere, more from a family photography standpoint. So that's kind of what started our desire and really saying, you know what, we're going to go out on our own.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember any of the challenges that you faced in the early days, whether it was getting clients or finding your niche, or just like, I don't
Yeah,
know, making it work with a
sure.
family? What
Yeah.
sticks out?
So what we kind of, okay, well, let me start. So in deciding what we were going to do, Frank had to say, you know what, I'm going to have to give up kind of the film component, which has always been his passion, the video, the storytelling. And every message that we were getting was that photography was where to be in 1997. Okay, we're going way
Yes.
back.
Yeah.
But how are we going to do this? We don't want to do it as other people do. We don't want to be a freelance. We want to make it a business.
Yeah.
So how are we going to do this? We're going to get a studio. Where are we going to get it? We have to be in the middle of where families are, young people are. So we did, what's now, big companies call market research. We did it guerrilla style. We went out, we looked at neighborhoods, we went and checked out who was walking through what neighborhoods, and we actually ended up, and this was the scary part, deciding to rent a space in a mall, in the Promenade Mall.
Wow.
That had never been done, ever. We had to put everything we owned on the line to basically sign this 5-year lease. We were young, like we didn't have a lot. And on top of which, people naysayers, as I call them, saying, oh my God, are you sure? Like, do you really want to do this? Like, you're like knee deep, you're in a 5-year lease. Cadillac Fairview isn't going to basically release you if this doesn't go. And so there was a lot of scary, scary moments.
No kidding.
And yeah, so that to me, I think was like, and then I remember when we actually, I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was just that we were naive, the passion. And I think it goes back to the passion of really wanting to take our future in our hands. And we went and signed that lease. And then it was like, oh, did we just do that? And it was like, no, this is fine. It's going to work. And we just worked through those fears, and we worked hard. We had no kids then. We did a lot of it on our own. I still was working corporate when we did that.
Wow.
So I literally got up early, went to work, met Frank, because back then things were open like 9 to 9,
Yep.
and relieved the girl that we had at the time. It was him and one other girl.
Yep.
Relieved her, and that's how we did it.
That is incredible. And so can you paint the picture of like, what did the next 5 years look like? Was this like a good decision?
Yeah. So I'll tell you, so I took vacation on the day that we opened in April. I took a week's vacation to do the opening. We renovated, we got help. My dad, God bless him, helped us to renovate the space. It was a beautiful looking space. We advertised. Back then, advertising wasn't online. It was through postcards, which people still do, but it was postcards. It was, postcards. We ran an ad in the local paper. And the day that we went in early. The doors were opening. That was at 9:30. We looked out, we had glass windows, and there was a lineup outside. We had a walk-in promotion. We had a line, okay? And it was like we weren't ready for it.
Yeah.
It was my husband, myself, and this girl who we had part-time, and most of the clients were people wanting their kids photographed because we had these beautiful photos in the window of people that we had done. The bulk of our business was creative kids photography. We were blown away. But then it was also scary. It was like, oh my God, how are we going to service all these people? And there were challenges. And quickly we realized that promotional package, we quickly learned about pricing and learned that if we keep that promotional package, we're going to be really busy, but we're going to go out of business.
Yeah.
So the next 5 years, we went from 700 square feet of space to a space across the hall that was double that. The year after we opened, something scary happened again. I lost my job. And because the company was shrinking, I remember calling my husband and saying, you're not going to believe this. In 1998, we had our first child. In 1999, I lost my job and I was going back after maternity leave. I remember calling my husband and saying, you're not going to believe this. I lost my job.
Yeah.
And a new business. So we had nothing, we just had the business. And I remember him saying, this is great. This is exactly what we need. I need you here.
Yeah.
So that was 1999. At the height of it, by 2002, we had a staff of 9 when we had grown it to 7 figures.
Crazy.
Yeah. So was it all easy? No. No, it never is. I mean, it's, it sounds like, no, it wasn't. It wasn't easy. We had to switch suppliers. Suppliers bailed out on us. We had one Mother's Day, we couldn't deliver orders because the supplier we were using kind of didn't go bankrupt, but for some reason shut its doors. Anyway, it was but throughout it all, it was an amazing journey. But we no longer do that.
Things have changed a lot. But I know that there's only so much we can cover in a podcast episode, but I can just tell those years, we just heard the accelerated version, but there were probably so many days that you said, what are we doing? Or I'm exhausted, or,
or you hear your friends, like if you're a business owner, a small business owner, you hear your friends having weekends off, and that's not the way it is. Not at the beginning anyhow, and really not even now at times, I have to say. That's why my recommendation to my kids, to anyone, my niece came over, said, she was talking about wanting to start a business. Said, sweetie, if you love what you do, then do it. If you don't love what you do, don't bother.
Yeah. Yep.
It's hard work. There's no two ways about it.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
Yeah.
there's always something to be doing to grow
Oh,
your
yeah.
business or to
Yeah.
catch up. And you
Exactly.
don't get to just do that punch out at the end of the day like many people do. But you're right. If
No.
you love it, then
Yeah.
you of course will be excited to do that
Exactly.
7 days a week if you have to. So
Exactly.
let's fast forward a little bit.
Yes.
Tell us what Storia photo video is
Today.
today because
So
it's changed.
it's changed, yes. So we rode the wave of photography, is the way that I call it, and we saw it kind of changing with the onset of iPhones, digital cameras. Yeah, like photography became like a commodity almost, and it wasn't valued the way it was back in the 90s or early 2000s. And throughout it all, Frank had been doing some what was now called video work from just people that we knew but never marketed it.
Yeah.
And again, we started looking at things and said, you know what, photography is going down and video's coming up. And he's like, that's my love, that's my passion, that's what we want to do. We were always about creating images and now creating video to tell stories, to capture emotion, to beautiful imagery, et cetera, et cetera. So we decided on and off about 5 years ago that we were just going to make the switch. We weren't going to market photography anymore. We were just going to market video. Photography still kept coming until 2 years ago. We said, okay, you know what, we really have to change it. Our website isn't done yet, but it will change over to basically reflect what we do. So what do we do today? Today we work with businesses to basically create, produce, and distribute video content to basically help them leverage the power of video in their marketing, with social media being so important, and the importance now more than ever of humanizing your business. You can't forget that regardless of the changes that have happened, regardless of social media, regardless of how much online, like this type of thing, which we would have done in person, we need the human connection. I always say, you know, I give it like at Staples, a little presentation that I do at Staples, and I've done it at other places. I always say one thing you can't forget with video or anything you do is that people do business with people, they like behind that business. Then are they going to want to actually deal with you?
Mm-hmm.
Or are you going to have that competitive advantage? The minute you put a face, the minute people are able to connect with you, and there's no other way of connecting other than basically making this connection on video, seeing people.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we do today.
Incredible. And I love that you say that video helps to humanize your business because I think a lot of startup entrepreneurs, who are many of the listeners of this show, they spend so long kind of hiding in the background, writing a business plan and writing the perfect text for a website and getting these like beautiful professional photos for Instagram and writing these captions, but nobody actually knows who they are or what they stand for. And if somebody has not met you in person before, how do they feel your energy? How do they
Right.
understand the way you think,
Totally.
the way you portray yourself, the confidence or the grit
Totally.
or the
Yeah,
the emotion that comes?
exactly.
And I think
Yeah.
video is
There's
such.
no, yeah, yeah. There's nothing that conveys emotion like video. And
Yeah.
you know, we work with mainly small to medium sized businesses.
Okay.
And one thing that I always say, you spent money on your website. A lot of people spend money on creating a logo, and that's important. I'm not saying that it's not. It's the whole
Yeah.
package. But really, the brand is you.
Mm.
The way you speak, the way you can, the way you connect. You're not going to connect with everybody, and that's okay. You want to
Yeah.
connect with people, with your audience, the people that you want to connect with, people that you can help. So by being on video, I don't see any better way.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a place for doing it yourself, but I
Yep.
also do think there's a place for professional video. And the marriage of the two and the combination of the two, I think, are really magical in marketing your business.
Mm-hmm. So, say I am a startup entrepreneur. I've been in business 2 years. Maybe I'm a life coach or something like that. And I'm starting to see quite a bit of traction. I'm getting lots of clients. And I know I need to take my website, my marketing to the next level.
Mhm.
What type of video would I even create? Like, what if I don't like being on camera? What if I don't know what I'm going to say on a video? Where
Right.
would you even begin with someone who says, okay, Fiorella, I need a video, but like, what do I talk about?
Right. So that's a lot of people, and that's not just startups. That's not just new. There's a lot of people that realize that video is the way to go. My competitor's done it,
Yeah,
or I know, they keep telling me I got to be on video. So the
exactly.
way that any video starts, whether you get a professional to do it or whether you do it, you need to make sure that you start with understanding your audience, truly understanding your offering. And what I mean by offering is, what problem are you solving? What desire are you fulfilling with your product or service? And then what is the goal of your video? So if you're a new business, for example, is your main goal to develop brand awareness at first and to really grow your email list, hypothetically? So then we need a brand awareness video. And what does that look like? That looks very different than a sales video. Okay. So for example, you need to consider, when you're building awareness, when you want someone to follow you, you need to consider the importance of making that emotional connection with them. So what do you say? Well, how do you help? How are you going to help them? People don't want to hear about you. They don't want to hear that I have X number of years of experience. They want to hear from me that I will create an effective video that is visually appealing, on brand, and will connect with their audience. So that's how I help. So as a coach, how are you going to help? How will you, you're a mindset coach? Great. What is in it for me, the viewer? So that's the thing you have to start with. And then you have to tailor your message so that it's like talking to a friend.
Yes.
So when you deliver, you can't, for the most part, I mean, there are some professions that we've dealt with and they have to be a little bit more buttoned down. But even in that regard, you need to put yourself in the viewer's seat and speak to them as though they were your friend and you were trying to help them. So how are you going to explain? So if I came to you and I said, Kelsey, how are you going to, okay, I want to hire you, but why?
Yeah.
You need to be able to share with me and make me feel like I'll be taken care of. And if you can do that, then video is effective. So what kind of video do you need? You start with, who's your audience and what goal are you trying to achieve?
Yep.
If you're at the opposite end and you say, oh, you know what, I've got all these people coming, they go to my cart, they look at my offering, but they're not pressing the button to buy, then that's a sales video, which looks very different.
Yeah.
Now you've made the connection somehow, some way, but now you need to, what I call, seal the deal. And you seal the deal in a very different video, with a more pragmatic video, explaining all the details of your service, exactly what they're getting, less emotion, more logic. So people begin, they buy with emotion, they justify with logic. And there's video content everywhere in between. So that's how we start. We start with analyzing, we start with a strategy, and we make recommendations.
Amazing. So good.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, how do you make sure that with every video you produce, you bring the wow factor? Like, I know there are many video companies that I could work with, but what makes Storia different?
Different. So there's many ways of bringing the wow factor. And I think it starts, so there's two objectives for us. So we want to wow the client and we want to wow their audience. Because if we wow the client and we don't wow the audience, it's pointless. So pretty pictures don't necessarily wow the audience. And what's going to wow the client is the look of the video and the results.
Yes.
So what do we do, though, I guess, to stand out? Well, okay, given kind of our own style, my husband's background, everything is stylized. So everything we do has a real nice style to it.
Yeah.
Could be black and white, for example. Everything is lit really well. We work with women and women want to look good. So the lighting is really important. We don't just pick up the camera.
Yeah.
So the end result is something that's really stylized, on brand. And our objective is always to elevate your brand, to make your brand look that much better, wherever your brand is, whether it's down here, up here, it's always to really make it, to give your brand the wow factor.
So cool. I love that. I'm wondering, what is a recent milestone that you've hit with Storia that you're really proud of?
Well, okay, so I think one of the things that, so one recent thing is we worked with a private school who brought us in to create a video. They had their own idea.
Yep.
And when I talked to them, the idea didn't sit well with me given the goal that they had. So I asked for permission and I said, would it be okay if I walked away and came back and we presented a different idea to you? Because I had already spoken to my husband. I go in for the first meeting. I'm kind of business development, client relations. We then do a plan together, a proposal, and then we go and present it. So they're like, yeah, no problem. I said, listen, if you don't agree, I will go with yours, but I will tell you why I don't think it might be the best. So we went in, changed it all, wrote it, created it, and everything. We went in and presented it. We had some music, and she said, I have goosebumps. And I said, that's exactly what you want to do, because you want those parents to have goosebumps. So anyway, this little project that started out, it wasn't a big budget. It was a small budget. We created it. I thought, you know what? Let's just put it into an award, like into some awards. It won 2 international, the AVA and Muse, I think. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Oh my
so
goodness.
we got gold for it, which is I think, I don't know, 85 to 89 or 9,
Is
whatever.
that a video that is on the internet that we
Yes,
can see?
yeah. So if it's on my LinkedIn page,
Awesome.
it's for Montessori School of Kleinberg. So on my LinkedIn page under featured, I have a few videos. So
Awesome.
on my personal LinkedIn page, yeah.
I will link that in the show
Yeah.
notes. You briefly mentioned that you're in charge of business development. I'd love to know, how do you love to seek out new client leads? What are you really good at in terms of growing your network
Yeah.
and building an audience?
So I'm a big believer in constantly planting seeds
Yeah.
and networking.
Yep.
So prior to all of this, I was probably out networking, I'm going to say 2 to 3 days a week, not full days.
Yeah.
So I belong to BNI, Business Networking International. So that was every Wednesday morning. I belonged to a couple of other groups. I would visit other networking events. So that to me is probably the best way, just to talk to people.
Yeah.
We also offer, like when I go, listen, like I offer free help, what I call free help. You don't have to hire us. But I talk to people all the time, and I've had situations where I've helped them
Yeah.
do their own thing, and then they've come back.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I do it.
I think that's such an undervalued skill, is just offering free advice, give value to
Yeah,
somebody, because oftentimes that leads into a paid relationship and it didn't
sure.
cost you a thing. Yeah, maybe
No,
it took some time, but that's it,
or
right?
or a recommendation.
Hmm.
Sometimes you try to help them and then they may not need you, but then,
Yeah.
I mean, it just happened to me last week. Someone called me, emailed me, and said, Jen said you spoke to her and you really actually gave her some good tips. I actually need video done.
Yeah.
So, sometimes but we've always, like, I just think that that's just a way of growing your network, letting people know what you do. And I think if you always start whatever you do from the standpoint of how can I help people, then I think you're always going to win.
Hmm.
And that's how we've always, I mean, even in the photo studio, people come in with their own camera and they'd ask Frank, like, I'm having this trouble or whatever.
Yeah.
Client for us, he would give help without any problem at all. So
Yeah. Just being an awesome human
yeah,
being and
yeah,
being
just helping.
kind. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly,
And
exactly.
generous with your knowledge, right?
That's right,
Yeah,
exactly.
I love that. Now, do you ever think about the long-term plans for Storia? So the 5-year, the
Yeah.
10-year, or are you just rolling one day at a time, enjoying the journey?
Um, you know what? I think you have to enjoy the journey no matter what, um, whether you have a plan or not. But I do believe in plans. Um, I believe you have to kind of, be flexible. But our plan is, so right now, Storia is a team of 3, me, Frank, and Kesha. So that's our immediate team. Everyone else is freelance. So we hire additional camera people, audio people, editors as we need them. And our digital marketing that we offer to our clients, meaning using videos on Facebook ads or even search engine or optimizing your YouTube channel, we have a partner
Mm.
agency that we work with. So that's what things look like now. We're happy, it's good. I guess if I had to say 5 years from now, the way I see things now is I would like to have all of that under one roof. So just basically have an agency that is a full service, so one-stop shop. So we start with strategy, which we do now with people, video strategy, and we just roll into the production, and we help them with the distribution and actually manage their social media accounts. So that would be the 5-year plan for us.
That's incredible. And I can absolutely see you hitting all of those goals because you've got that fire. And I love talking to you because it seems like you really enjoy the work that you do. And of course, we've chatted, like there are hard times. There are days when it's like, you know, I don't know what I'm doing or what's that next step. But at the end of the day, rooting back to the why behind why you got into this in the first place, and that hit that you get when someone gets chills from watching your video, right? That's like inexplicably awesome. So very cool. So if somebody wants to learn more about Storia, where should they find you?
So we have an Instagram account. So I have a personal Instagram account that I share some personal stuff and some, some Storia stuff. So my name, Fiorella Cunha. We have a Storia Photo video Instagram account. I have a LinkedIn page, personal LinkedIn page. And that's pretty much it. And then our website, which there's a website now, storiaphotovideo.com, but it is being redone because the way that it looks now is kind of like 50% photography and some video, but that's obviously changing. It's just like, again, as I said, there's things in business that we find challenging. Although, like I tell people, you need to do video, you need to be on social media. But I'll be honest, it's challenging sometimes, as we've talked about, running your own business and doing all the other things. So what am I going to do? Hold a client's project back? No, they get first priority. And social media for me falls kind of behind a little bit. Yeah.
I totally echo that sentiment. Sometimes I'm like, yes, I'm preaching this message, but I know I haven't done it in a while. But again, like my clients come first. And, at the end of the day, it's hard to keep all those balls in the air all the time.
And you have to, for anyone starting out, honestly, be easy on yourself, because sometimes I know we put a lot of pressure on, and I mean, here I am saying it, I still put a lot of pressure, but you can't get everything perfect. You can't get everything done all the time. But for us, yes, our clients come first. So if our social media falls behind, well, then how it's got to be.
Yeah. Well, Fiorella, it was so wonderful to talk to you today. Thank you for being on the Visionary Life podcast. And I'm sure there will be many more conversations with us in the future. So thanks for sharing your story.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.